My Lords, no one should be under any illusion about the dangers facing the United Kingdom, principally from Russia, China, North Korea and Iran. Whether it's assassins hunting down and murdering Alexander Litvinenko or attempting to kill Sergei Skripal in Salisbury, the attack on the Prime Minister's London home, the hate-driven scourge of anti-Semitism, cyber attacks. Recall North Korea's 2017 crippling cyber attack on the National Health Service, hacking and false narratives, poisoning minds through social media, the presence of Chinese spies even inside the government and parliament, with 2 more sentenced last week, with bounties on the heads of British residents and coercive sanctions on parliamentarians. My Lords, it is clear that these are dangerous times. I have the honour to chair the Joint Committee on Human Rights. Across several reports, we've highlighted threats to both national security and the human rights of our citizens, 2 sides of the same coin. We condemned the failure to bring to justice 400 British citizens who enlisted in ISIS, committed genocide against Yazidis and other minorities in northern Iraq, who returned to the United Kingdom, and not one of whom has been prosecuted for genocide or crimes against humanity. My Lords, how many of them has the government assessed as a future security threat? As we've heard, MI5's chief says threats have risen by more than a third in a single year, with over 20 Iranian-inspired plots to kill, maim or kidnap on our sovereign territory. Perhaps more than anything else, it's been the depredations of that barbaric Iranian dictatorship which has been reflected in our debate today and driven the need for these new measures. Having been sanctioned by Iran in October 22 along with the Noble Lord, Lord Polak and others, I might be forgiven for saying, as the Noble Lord, Lord Davis of Gow has said earlier on, that this bill has been a long time coming. Back in April 2001, I opened the first of several debates, dozens of parliamentary questions and many cross-party meetings about Iran's egregious violations of human rights, about its nuclear threat, its proclaimed wish to eradicate the State of Israel, its export of terror and the pernicious role of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, both here and in Iran. In the 2025 JCHR report on transnational repression, debated in your Lordship's House on February the 26th, we highlighted appalling attacks on pro-democracy activists and journalists, some of whom had been forced to flee the country and one of whom had been left bleeding on the street after an attempted assassination. I would like transnational repression to appear on the face of the bill, at least as an aggravating factor, even if we can't go as far as Sweden, where TNR is defined and is illegal. Since its foundation in 1979, the Iranian regime has been based on 2 pillars: domestic oppression and the export of terrorism and chaos abroad. Death sentences issued by the revolutionary courts have led to endless waves of executions, some 2,159 in the last 12 months, and recall the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, arrested by the morality police for wearing clothes which have been disapproved of by the theocratic regime. In 2023, I spoke in favour of the amendment tabled by the Noble Lord, Lord Coker, calling for the prescription of the IRGC, and was happy to support the opposition when they moved similar amendments. Now, I recognise that there is a difference between prescription and designation, and I do at least welcome the steps that are being taken in this bill. But, my Lords, may I ask the Minister about the letter sent to him by the Joint Committee on Human Rights, referred to by the Noble Baroness Lady Ducey, sent on June the 26th. It was sent to the Home Secretary with a copy to the Noble Lord. I received a response today from the Noble Lord, Lord Hanson and Flint, and I'm grateful to him for that. But that only arrived about 2 hours ago, and I'd be grateful if he would agree to place copies in the libraries of both houses and to circulate it to everyone who's participated in today's debate. It's important, the response that the government has sent, because it does deal, I think, very effectively with some of the points raised by the JCHR in probing the power to designate a body on the basis that it involved foreign power threat activity, despite there being no link in these circumstances between that body and any foreign power. and we ask for consideration to be given to an amendment to ensure that under Section 33A, only activity linked to a foreign power could be relied upon to satisfy the test for designation. We also ask about assisting a designated body, about obtaining material benefits from a designated body, and greater clarity on the safety of the interests of the United Kingdom. My Lords, it was suggested in the House of Commons that there is inconsistency in the thresholds and the more lenient treatment of hostile states than that of terrorists. It's been referred to during our debate today as well. Is that so, and can it be remedied? May I also ask about a point raised by my noble friend, the Lord Anderson of Ipswich, and others in the debate, and that's about humanitarian organisations operating where state-linked actors exercise territorial control. And I would draw attention to the noble Lord Hanson of the letter that's been sent to the Home Secretary by the chair of the International Development Select Committee, the admirable Sarah Champion MP. In a letter to me, though, the International Red Cross asked for an amendment to, and I quote their exact words, "The offences established in Section 17 shall not apply to exclusively humanitarian activities carried out by impartial humanitarian organisations in accordance with international law." So I echo the remarks of others and hope that issue might be addressed before next Tuesday. It would be passing strange if Red Cross humanitarian work were to be compromised while more than 13 organisations masquerading as charities can stoke the fires of hatred and threaten community cohesion. Why aren't we using this bill to take powers to close them down? And, my Lords, what about China, a point referred to by the noble Baroness, Lady Tyler and others? Recall the collapsed spy case and last week's convictions of CCP regime spies. The bill should enable ministers to close the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office, a point I referred to yesterday in questions on this issue. It's a spy hub, a cat's cradle of spies and malign actors. We should have a power to close it down. 10 months after the JCHR's unanimous recommendation to put China onto the enhanced tier of the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme, which we do for Russia and Iran, it hasn't happened. Will trade deals always trump security, human rights, and even genocide? My Lords, Baroness Tyler referred to the point the head of the GCHQ made about genuine increasing cyber risk, his words, and how we devote more resources to China than any other mission, while Parliament has been warned of infiltration of our universities and threats to our liberties via mass surveillance from Hikvision and other cameras. Chinese-made EVs incorporating Chinese cellular modules along with SIM cards or software, they raise significant espionage and national security concerns, with internet-connected vehicles being described as a hostile state's smartphone on wheels. My Lords, the Joint Committee is currently looking at AI and human rights. I hope the government is also looking at the way that AI and software and internet powers can be used in order to undermine our public debates and indeed our security as well. And I hope that before next Tuesday that we can have the opportunity, more than the 6 hours that was provided in the House of Commons, to debate these questions. I hope we will be able to come to some agreement around some of the concerns that still remain.